And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
Together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename, so we've got that going for us too.
We will be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
Still holding up.
Today is our 54th episode.
And what a merry episode it will be.
Oh, why is that?
Haven't you heard?
Heard what?
About the news.
What news?
'Tis the season.
For what?
For seasons are out. The seasons feature.
Oh, right, of course. Oh, yeah, seasons. Right, okay. Sorry. Right part.
Anyway. Forget.
As always, we are here to answer development and design questions about idle champions.
If you don't ask any questions, however, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of, okay, wait, what's the next Marvel in your list?
Captain America, the First Avenger.
Right.
I could do this all day.
Is that a...
Yeah, it's a quote from the movie. I mean, it's a quote from my one-man show of the movie. Anyway, that one's free. If you want the rest, you'll have to not ask any questions today.
Might be too late already. All right. Anyway, as always, we have pulled some questions from the previous show that we didn't get to, and we will answer some of those while we are waiting for new questions to come in. As well as I do have some updates on items that we flagged to get looked at by the development team, and without any further stalling for time, we'll get started with those. Although actually, I think in fairness, I have a minor additional stall for time. Just so everyone is aware, we are both streaming out of new rooms at this point because the office renovations have been proceeding and are almost complete. And the only issue here that we didn't take into account before we got set up today is that these rooms are extremely echoey. So I'm imagining you are hearing this on the stream, and our apologies. That will be something that we will get addressed for the next stream. But until then, this is sort of a new setup. So hopefully it doesn't cause too much of a distraction. Right. So what do we got here? We actually have some fixes and new feature lists here that did get completed. One of them is one I've been talking about for a very long time. And I believe this went out last week when I wasn't here. And this is the Havilar imps now do automatically spawn when you add Havilar to the field, so that's great. We have also added we've got the actual pity timers on the chests on the time gate screen, as well as in the store. Although I am told, don't kill the messenger here, that it's only in shop 3. So for now, if you are in shop 3, you do have a pity timer displayed on the chest screen in the store when you're purchasing chests to see when the next epic will drop from those type of chests. And hopefully soon, TM, everyone will have shop 3 and that feature will be available for everyone. We do still have a handful of items in the ongoing list, of course. We've got a request to go over and make sure that that escape properly closes all menus and dialogues. We're going to add journal scrolling with keyboard keys. We're going to add recall for familiars, because I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't be able to pull a familiar from an offline party if you're not on that party. We're going to improve the cycling for cycling. Why can't I speak today? For cycling between champions on console. Currently, you go into that screen and you hit Y to switch between champions, and it just goes to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. You can easily miss the one you're looking at. It's really not ideal for the large number of champions that are in each slot at this point. So we're going to get that fixed up. A slider for using multiple scrolls in trials. An indicator that shows you how many unread change logs are waiting for you. I'm going to continue to bug Justin about the missing node on the strong core.
Okay, I am so bugged.
We're going to add an indicator to the background party to show that it is no longer auto-progressing, in addition to save feats with formations, and we are still working on the colorblind friendly update for the cards. And that is the ongoing list. So let's move on to questions left over from the previous shows.
Alrighty, so we're going to zip through a couple of questions here because I know a lot of people have questions about seasons. So we'll just get through these ones because they're kind of common ones that we see. So if there's any newer players in chat, we can get through these ones quickly and then move on to the seasons one. So the first one is from Chris 12454. And they ask, could you make the game available for download through the Apple App Store on the M1 Max, since this would enable one to switch between playing on the phone and on the Mac on the same account? It already works on the iPad and the iPhone where you have the same game account on two different devices.
Yeah, so at some point we will end up switching the Mac build over to the M1 Mac build. Currently, we're still supporting just sort of the original, the Intel Mac build. We'll continue doing that until sort of it makes sense for us to shift over to the M1 Mac. But I don't have an exact timeline on that at this point. But it is something that in the future we will switch to, but not right now. Yeah.
Next question is from SailNet. And they say some folks expecting to hit the star on the challenge, or some folks are expecting hitting the star on the challenge tracker to close the window in the same way that selecting the star opens the window. Can this additional functionality be added to the feature?
Yeah, so the request here is just to make the star toggle. Yeah, 100%. I'll tag that if it hasn't already been looked at, because it does feel like something that might have been addressed at this point, but definitely.
Yeah. I tried to do that.
We will definitely make that happen. Okay.
And the next question here from last show is from RoughRider91, and they ask, how is the background party internal testing going? When will the community alpha/beta testing occur? Well, that's a poignant question.
Yeah, so I've got good news on this front. There is... I don't know if people can see those lock channels or not. There is a new channel in the Discord, which is specifically for beta testing this, and we have invited a few select community members to participate in the very first pass of that. So my understanding is that Mark is just finishing up a build to get to those people, and they haven't received it quite yet. It's not yet in their hands, but it will be before the end of day today for at least the first pass of that, and then we'll see how that goes and how much we want to expand that out before we end up having that widely available to everyone. But it is on the cusp of actually starting. People have been invited to the test, and we're just waiting on Mark to get sort of finalized, get the last few I's dotted and T's crossed before getting them a build with that. So basically underway, practically underway. Yeah.
It looks like, according to chat, that we already caught the fact that the star didn't close the window in the same way, and that's already been implemented in one of the most recent builds. So
cool.
That's already
that did
out.
Feel like something that we would immediately change. So
it really did.
Good. Cool. Okay, last question left over from last week. This one is from Maelstrom7737. The question is, with trials being almost a year old, are there any updates to when we might expect changes to trials? Scaling, rewards, forging, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the answer to this is we were hoping to get a bunch of these changes in for the previous build lock, which was at the end of August. And unfortunately, we did not quite get those changes done in that time. We are now aiming to get a whole bunch of changes done for the end of this build lock, which is the end of this month. Those do include things like auto start if once the party is full. They include some changes to how much trials cost to start. They include a bunch of changes to the balance of the rewards and the difficulty. And so, yeah, a bunch of that stuff will hopefully get done in this build lock, and then the legendary stuff is tentatively scheduled for next build lock. That'll include some changes to how much legendaries cost to forge, how much they cost to upgrade, and how much they cost to reforge to change the bonus. We're hoping to get those into the October build lock, or the end of October build lock, which would have those come out sometime in mid-November. So kind of mid-October to mid-November is when we want to get that stuff done. It is kind of our top kind of priority right now. We're not working on any brand new crazy features like seasons or weekly party at this point. So we're pretty focused on doing the catch up on that, because as you say, it's been almost a year old, over a year old at this point, and that's it's getting a little ridiculous. So we are definitely on top of that right now.
Okay. Well, let's move on to today's questions. First question of the day comes from Monkey House. Can you provide some background on the decision not to preview the season pass? Community comments could have prevented a lot of headache.
Mm-hmm. So this is a fair question. In general, we don't preview our major features like this. Specifically getting into the details of rewards and stuff, because that's stuff that can change at the last minute, and we don't want to put something out and then and then have to pull back on it. So I think the feedback that we're getting so far from the season pass about the season pass is really good. We appreciate all of that feedback, and we will definitely be taking a lot of that into consideration, not only for season 2 and season 3, but we are internally talking about potentially making a couple of changes or updates to the season pass or the rewards track, even for season 1. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we're always reading the feedback. We're always looking for feedback. In this case, we didn't seek that out prior to the beginning of the season, but that's not, generally something that we do. So yeah, we are going to hope to get some changes in there at the very least for season 2 and future seasons, but definitely the community comments and on it so far are helping to inform that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely keep in mind sort of it's a brand new feature, and we'll sort of see how players react, not just initially, but sort of over time as well, right? Because I think this certainly, having read through a substantial amount of feedback at this point myself, I can see that there's definitely there are mixed opinions, and some people have some very strong opinions about the season content, but I think this is the kind of thing that that does sort of settle and change over time, so we'll be watching that very carefully. Okay. Next question here, which is of course directed directly at you, Justin, is from Rough Rider 91, and he wants to know, or they want to know, if you can be posting your famed one-man shows on the highly underutilized C&E TikTok channel.
Believe it or not, I've never actually done a one-man show. I hate to break this to you. I know this is kind of like blowing a lot of people's minds, but it's actually just a joke we do with it. But yeah, no. There was some talk internally about potentially actually doing a one-man show as part of like an Extra Life fundraising thing for charity. I don't know. We'll see. Extra Life is coming up in a couple of months, so we'll see what I can come up with before then.
All right. Next question. This is from Red-Eyed Monstar. Is the 1% increase favor for level 2 a bug or a joke?
So it's not a joke, and it's not a bug. It is a very minor reward for leveling up your season level. It's another thing that we're kind of looking at whether or not it makes sense to fiddle around with. I think the big thing about this first kind of week of seasons is that we will, collect a bunch of feedback, figure out what we've done well, what we've done poorly, and make changes based off of that feedback. So I think the favor bonuses, there are a couple more as you go through. I think it gets up to 5 or 10% by the end. Those bonuses are not intended to be massive game changers. But they're intended just to be, helpful minor things. 1% might be a little bit under where we want to balance for, though. I think that another kind of point about that is that it's a lot of those rewards and are not very well messaged. So it's not very clear where some of those buffs are coming from. Obviously, you guys have figured out that you get them for leveling up your season level, but that's not really clear anywhere. I think we mentioned it in the FAQ, but it's not really something that happens, like you level up the season level and then you get like a pop-up that says like, hey, you unlocked this buff or something like that. So there's a lot of work we need to do there to change sort of some of the messaging there. Also, when you complete a quest, we don't really message very well that you completed that quest and you got some stuff from it. It's actually difficult to see how much stuff you got or which quests you've recently completed. So there's some work we still have to do on the experience there for sure.
All right. Next question. I know this is a question you've been looking forward to. This one here is from Vovcast. The question is, the game is no longer free to play? ? Buying skins is okay. They does not impact gameplay. Buying chests is okay. You can get them in the game other ways. You can compensate Golden Epic with blacksmithing contracts dropped in game, but Modron cores are different. Will it be any way to get an Erois core with in-game currency?
Yeah, so I think this is obviously the elephant in the room. This is the main thing that I've seen people commenting on Reddit and in Discord and in other places is the Modron core as part of the season pass. And the honest answer is I'm not sure yet if there'll be another way to get the Aerois core with in-game currency. We wanted to do something big as part of the first season and have like a really cool reward there that feels really exclusive, and we went with a Modron core. It's not a required thing to play the game to have a Modron core, and in fact, there are enough Modron cores in the game to have a core on each party without necessarily needing to have the Aerois core. So our thought is that this was a bonus thing. Sort of that wasn't necessary to play, much like golden epics are, much like skins are. You get maybe a little bit more DPS out of it if you're using a full Aerois group, but it's not a huge amount. So we're listening to the player feedback, and we'll make some decisions as we go. But our goal with the Modron core was to have something fun and exciting in there that would feel like something that was worthwhile. If you didn't want skins, if you didn't want the feats or the item levels, it gives you something to go for in the season pass.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the thing about sort of this question, especially the first part, is where do without getting into sort of weeds around defining what is free to play or not. I think the game has always had elements in it that are elements that are for players who who want to support the game, that gives them a little bit of an advantage, and that's like having additional familiars or having the golden epics. But all of the actual game content, including all of the areas, all of the champions, all of the adventures, all of that being available, I think solidly puts us in that free to play. The game is free to play and will always remain free to play, but we do want to make sure that we can give some what's the word I'm looking for, Justin? Like some, not advantages, but something that is a reward when you contribute to the game like that, when you support us. And so something like that, I think we always want to make sure that that's available for us to do. So, okay. Next question is from Lord Javix. Would it be possible to pin the map after picking an adventure? Scrolling all over the map each adventure is cumbersome.
Yeah, this is something that I think we either talked about in the last episode of Dev Insights, or maybe we talked about internally while Dave was was on vacation last week. I can't remember which it was. All the weeks blend together. But yeah, I think we were talking about having it focus on whatever node that you last did an adventure in on that core. And so I think that this got on to Peter's list. And if not, then we will put it back onto we will pop it onto that list now. Because
prior to that, the behavior is that it always went to the one you have the next available in, right?
And I think the reason this is coming up now is because we recently added that second path to the Grand Tour campaign, which means the latest adventure is in Candlekeep, which is way at the bottom of the map. And it's super annoying to load up the map and have it go all the way down there when like 90% of the adventures are further up. So yeah, so that's definitely something that has become apparent that it's an issue, and we'll definitely take a look at that.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Kinra Vip. There is now so much to do and keep track of in Idle Champions. Do you ever worry that the game will be overwhelming for new players?
Yes. Yes, we do. So sort of my priorities right now, aside from looking at the season feedback and looking at season 2 and the trial stuff as well, one of my priorities is looking at patron challenges and whether or not we need to continue to have quite so many patron challenges. There's 4 patrons, 10 challenges a week, and then of course we've layered on the season quests as well. And so there's quite a bit of stuff there to do. I think we want to try and find ways to streamline that, especially with the patron challenges. We want to make sure that it doesn't feel like, I've referred to them as chores. I think the community, I've seen the community refer to them as chores. We would like to try and find a way to make them not feel quite so chore-like. And we're discussing some of those options internally. And there's some good comments from the community as well of sort of stuff we can do to help out with that. As far as sort of other features, we are we are at the end of the day, we are a free to play game. And so one of the things we kind of have to keep doing to keep folks around, to keep folks playing and supporting the game is provide new stuff to do, and new adventures and new event champions only go so far. So these bigger features like trials, like weekly party, like seasons, and like anything else that we do in the future, they're required for the game to kind of sustain itself over time. Because by the time we get, I was thinking about this last night, and it's like, by the time we get to our 100th skin or our 50th familiar or whatever, people are pretty happy with that, and so we have to find new things to interest people and new things to get people engaged. Otherwise, the game just can't sustain itself for very long. So. It's always something we're thinking about how we can make the game more streamlined for new players and more and just keep it from being overwhelming. So definitely something that's on our mind.
Yeah, well, for sure. Okay, so the next two questions here are actually sort of they're related to each other. The first one here, which is from Monkey House, is asking about the season pass items and asking if they will be available after the end of the season for gems. And I just wanted to tie that into the next question here that's from Alpha Crawl, asking more specifically about if you've purchased the season pass, will there be a way to get the rewards if you didn't get time to unlock them during the season? So what options are likely to be available after the season for getting items, Justin?
Yeah, so I think at this point, sort of the general plan is for the skins to go into wild offers. The Modron core, we were also thinking about putting that into wild offers. That one's kind of up in the air. The feats would probably go into wild offers, as well as potentially become available for gems, just in general. And then most of the other stuff, the chests, the buffs, scrolls. I think there's a bit of trials currency in there as well. That stuff would all just basically no longer be available. If you purchased the pass and didn't get to unlocking some of the things, I actually haven't discussed this with anyone else, so I'm not sure what your thoughts are on this, Dave. But I think the industry standard for most of the season pass stuff is if you didn't get to it, if you bought the pass and didn't get to it, then generally it just becomes unavailable, much like anyone else who didn't have a chance to unlock that content in that time.
Yeah, that's typically my understanding. I mean, the only one that I have any significant experience with, of course, is the Fortnite one, which I have a history of doing pretty much every season for the last 2 or 3 years, and their sort of approach tends to be that yes, the items are gone at the end of the season. It's sort of an exclusivity window, so if you didn't get them, then they sort of making them available in the future kind of diminishes that item you were able to get. But they're also set up in such a way that if you play a reasonable amount, you can get through that sort of main pass before you get into sort of the bonus tiers. And I know we talked about that quite a bit when laying out the balance on this, and so it shouldn't be this is going to be one of those things where if you play even semi-regularly, you should be able to get through without missing out on anything. Certainly, if you're concerned that you might not be able to complete it in time, buying the pass later in the season lets you know that you can complete a lot of the quests and then be ready to know that when you buy it, you'll be getting everything rather than sort of doing it up front. But the balance, as my understanding, I don't know how much you tweaked it after we discussed it, should be doable without committing to I think an everyday play. We're talking about like doing every second set of dailies. I think
it's around 50% of the dailies. Yeah, if you complete around half the dailies, then you should get enough and you purchase the pass. Then you should have enough currency and XP to unlock everything. That is something that we will look at. We're going to be looking at a lot of analytics over the course of the season and sort of figure out how well people did, especially people who bought the pass. We don't want you to buy the pass and then not get all the stuff. So we'll definitely look at ways to bring that together if you buy the pass and aren't able to get all the stuff. I think there's also, one of the things we do in one of our super old games called Bushwhacker 2 is that when the events in that game repeat, the items from previous events become available for a premium currency in that game. And so, I could see potentially, if there's enough demand, that down the road they could be available in a future season pass in like a tier 11 thing or something. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I'm just spitballing at this point.
Yeah, and I think another thing worth considering is that sort of the intention on the pass is to have the value proposition be quite high, such that even if you didn't get everything, you still end up getting sort of the items that you did get at a value that you shouldn't feel bad about. Unless all you got was like one item, then that's definitely not the intention. But
yeah, and the value on the pass is it's quite high if you compare it to other ways that we sell skins and feats in the game.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Jack of Hearts. Can I skip a majority? Oh, I guess we kind of answered this.
We just answered this one. You can ask it anyway.
Sure, let's do it. I started on it. Can I skip a majority of the daily quests and unlock all the seasonal content? I don't play every day.
So you can skip about half, I think, is where we came down on it. If you play roughly 3 to 4 times a week, and the daily quests are balanced to take around maybe an hour of play, or a set it and forget it for an hour kind of thing, then you should be able to get enough XP and currency to unlock all the items.
Okay. Next question. This is from Surom9. I love it when you include how many champions of specialization effects during the selection screen. Could we get that for freely? Because I use him a lot.
Yes, we do have plans to expand that behavior out. We've got freely definitely on the list. There's a couple other champions on the list. We're also looking at adding, and this is exciting, I think, adding this functionality to champions like Minx or Jaheira, who have essentially favored enemy kind of specializations, where it would tell you the percentage of areas in the current adventure that have that type of monster or the type of boss, so that you could make a call on which one was the best to use in that particular adventure. So that kind of stuff is coming down the pipe. It's just a matter of time. Next question here. This one's blue. This means I get to ask
look
it.
at this.
This one's from Tormunda, who asks, when do we all get Shop 3? I want to know that too, because I want Shop 3.
Yeah, this is something we are still looking at the analytics on Shop 3, and we are still everything has been looking a lot better, especially since the last changes that we made about 3.5 weeks ago. But we still haven't sort of solidified that we have enough data on that to just do a full rollout. So I don't have an exact date. It was looking really positive a couple of weeks ago, and now we're just sort of looking at it going, I think we're just waiting on some additional data. So I don't have an exact date, but we are all really hoping very soon that we can roll that out to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question here is from Mr. Nobody Nobodyson.
Oh.
Asking, when will the next mobile update roll out? I'm still waiting for my Havilar fix.
Yes, I was just pulling up the changelog to check this. It looks like Android, PS4, Apple, and Xbox are still on 4.6.7, and that fix is in 4.6.9. So it will be whenever the next time we do a build for those platforms is. I assume we'll probably do a build for those platforms pretty quick, because 470 has a bunch of season fixes in it, and so it'll essentially be the next time that we do a build pass. At least for Android and Apple should be pretty straightforward. So I would expect to see those, if not this week, then next week for sure.
Okay. Next question from Bill Slowski 002.
Not Bill Slowski 001. Not that guy.
No, he got banned, I think.
Anymore. Yeah. He knows what he did.
When will you add achievement tracking to the quest trackers, please? And thank you.
Oh, well, since you said please and thank you, that sounds like something we should do. I think we got asked this last time when we first initially released the thing, and people were like, "There should be achievement tracking." Like, did we say yes or no last time? I can't remember. Should try and be consistent.
Ooh, I don't remember either. I do think it'd be nice to have something like that tracking. The trick is sort of making sure that we add enough filters and sorts on that so that it's easy to see, because I think there's a ton of achievements that would end up in there. Like my original worry when we put the list together, especially with that add all button that got placed in there, was that it would end up sort of being a kind of unwieldy to just manage that list. Just another, you tick everything and put it into a different place.
Maybe we just don't add the add all button to the achievement panel.
Yeah, potentially, for sure.
One at a time.
Yeah, because I know when we originally discussed it, I had that sort of that WoW achievement or WoW quest tracking in my head, which was more like you could have maybe, what do they got, 5? That's what you get, and then you got to pick and choose. But yeah.
Yes. Next question is from the Old Man Master, who asks, what are your thoughts about having more Modron reset options? For example, if the party wipes, reset the run.
Yeah, I mean, I think this hasn't come up in a while, but it is something that we had discussed initially, and I think it would be, it's probably worthwhile to add in some additional options for that, as well as need to go back and address adding additional, like having multiples of different potions at various portions. Like that whole automation portion could probably use a little bit of love, because I know sort of what we ended up in there was just sort of the initial ones, and then well, obviously we haven't gotten back to take a good look at that. I think the tricky bit about like the party wiping is that may not be like an ideal point, but maybe something that, you know, does it if you wipe like 3 times or something. So I think it might need like a little bit of additional logic.
If you've been stalled for 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, because especially if you've got something where you get bumped back, but then you can go forward again. Yeah.
I think for free plays, which is the main place where your Modron's going to be resetting automatically, we don't generally have a lot of mechanics in free plays that could wipe you in a situation where you would then be able to win the next time you go through. There's not a lot of randomization. That's more for, you know, variants where like something will fall from the sky and just randomly kill your DPS in one shot. So I think that that you know, reset on a run could be, or reset on a wipe could be a thing. Stalled for X minutes could be a thing. Yeah, I think there's definitely options there for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Before we get to the next one here, it looks like we are going to be starting our famous Codename Entertainment Dev Insights. Do we do this on other streams? Giveaway. Of course we do. Very shortly. So if you haven't been here before, this is the part of the show where I talk like an idiot for a couple of minutes. I'm sorry. This is the other part of the show where I talk like an idiot for a couple of minutes about how you can enter the giveaway to potentially win 42 chests of your choice, excluding Bahamut chests. And the keyword for today will be Erois. So if you don't know how to spell that, just open up the seasons dialogue. It's the name of the season, the Heroes of Erois. And that is starting, well, it has started now. I don't know what the lag is like, maybe 5-10 seconds. Started a little bit ago. But yeah, you get to pick the type of chest that you want. It could be any type of chest. It could even be the Heroes of Erois chest, the new season chest.
Can it be aluminum chest? Tin chest? Zinc chest?
We still don't have
copper
any
chest?
of those
Where's my copper chest, Justin?
No, there's still none of those chests.
Nordic gold chest?
Yeah, no.
No?
No, sorry. Gold, silver, or Erois.
What about the amazing admin chest that guesses what you are thinking and gives you that?
You can ask for that chest, but a friendly reminder, if you ask for a type of chest that doesn't exist, you just don't get any chests. So
clairvoyant admin chest.
Shh. Spoilers.
Adamantium chest, yes.
Alrighty, well, let's go back up to, this question here.
That one says you don't need to read it live, Justin.
Well, I would like you to read it live.
All right.
Take out the part that says you don't need to read it live.
There we go. We have a question here from Emote, which previously said I didn't need to read it live, but Justin deleted that part. So, can I bug you about Marilyn's cat? cat form not having a magic type attack again.
Yes, you may. And I will highlight that. And when I get back to my computer, if I remember, I will go in and make that change. Because that should be something that even I can do. And they don't generally trust me in the data, but I can do that one, I think. If I can't, I'll ask Peter. The next question is from Hunter Digi, who asks, why are bounty and blacksmith contracts not able to use more if that more is less than 50? Like if you open more chests, it will offer to open the rest of your chests once you run out.
Yeah. So I think this was, if I'm thinking of the right thing here, this was a compromise for the number of clicks. Yes. It's slightly vague in my memory. I think the idea here was that players were asking for the ability to open more. So you're going to use more than 50 repeatedly. But there was a concern that for a lot of players who didn't want to open more and were picking a number that every time that they would open it, they would then be prompted, do you want to open 10 more or whatever you'd picked before more, and this would of course impact the idea here was this was going to impact substantially more people than the people who were trying to open 50 50 50 50 or a large number. And so the compromise here was that if you were opening a full set, you would be prompted to open an additional full set, and if you were opening less than a full set, then you would not get bothered with it. I don't know that is a perfect solution, but it is a better solution than adding that extra click for everybody who likely didn't want to open another set. So that's why. Next question. This question is from OG17. There is a passive season buff icon in the weekend buff area that goes up as you progress the season. Is this explained somewhere?
No. It might be explained or mentioned in the FAQ, which you can access from the season dialogue, but it is not very well explained anywhere else. So this is the thing I was talking about near the top of the show. It's essentially, the season buff is something that that lasts through the season, so it lasts for all 10 weeks of the season, and you get new buffs for it both when you level up the season. Or you level up your season level. So you get 10% DPS or a 1% favor. Maybe there's some gold find in there. Maybe there's some health or healing in there, I think, at some points. And then you can also buy additional buffs for that, which are generally much bigger buffs in the rewards shop. So there's a bunch of those on the free tier, and there's also a bunch of those in the paid tier. So the season buff is basically just something that you build up as you go through the season. Both actively and passively, and it just makes your parties better for the season. Applies to all the parties and is awesome. One of the things we definitely want to do for season 2, or potentially even as sort of a mid-season update, is to message a lot of those season buffs a lot better, message leveling up a lot better, messaging when you complete a quest a lot better. Just so that it's not kind of a mysterious thing that's happening in the background.
Okay, back up the duck here. Next question. This one is from Old Man Master again. This question is, in regards to feats, many months ago it was mentioned that one option for feats was to have them all enabled. Is that still something that might happen?
Yeah, so this is not something I'm actively working on yet, but this is something that our producer keeps bugging me about. So yeah, feats are something that are up for a slight redesign in the next little bit. We haven't solidified any design changes for them, so everything I'm saying after this point is a maybe not. We're not sure yet. But sort of my preference would be to categorize feats in some way, which would be, there'd be sort of feats that are kind of like they are now, where you have a limited number of slots and you have to pick which one. And those would generally be ones that, change the functionality of the champion in some way. Then there would be sort of passive ones that as soon as you unlock it, it's just always available or always on, which would be ones that, increase the champion's damage or their health, or global DPS, or just sort of passive buffs. And then there will be ones that you can toggle. So those would be ones like feats that increase a stat, or decrease a stat, or change the champion in some way that kind of enables or disables them for say a patron or a certain ability. And so those ones, as soon as you have them, would be toggleable on and off. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for feat changes. There's also a whole bunch of sort of fun feat types and new types of feats that we're looking at adding that have different effects. And those will hopefully start to come down the pipe as well in the near future. But yeah, there's definitely a bunch of feat stuff that we want to do. But as I said, none of it's really solidified yet. So I can't say for sure that what I just described will be the thing to make it into the game.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Scary Dan. Scary Dan says, so I'm a very new player, and I'm a bit confused about the seasons. I was close to completing a season quest and exited out. When I came back, it was gone, but nothing was marked complete. Any idea why?
Yeah, so this is exactly what I was just talking about. There's very bad messaging right now about when you complete a season quest. My assumption with this one is that you completed a season quest and it just didn't pop up like a quest completed thing, because that's apparently not a thing we do yet. It is something that we do want, or that I do want to be doing basically as soon as possible. The other option is it could have been a daily quest, and the daily quests do refresh every day at noon Pacific time. So if you don't finish a daily quest on a given day and we hit noon, then you'll just lose your progress on that, and you'll get 3 new daily quests. So make sure you finish those as soon as possible. The seasonal quests and the milestones, if you guys can see my hands, the seasonal quests and the milestone quests stick around for the whole season, so you don't have to worry about rushing through those. Those will be available even through the daily and the weekly turnovers there.
Yeah, and if you're curious about when the time is for that, there is a countdown on that display that you can check.
Yes. Next question here is from Oracolo Janus, or Hannes, who says, in the season milestone quest progression tracker, can we have the full numbers instead of scientific notation? The numbers are low enough that having the actual number makes it easier to understand how far we are in the single quests.
Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable request. I know we've done this in various places where if the numbers are low enough, it just always shows the non-scientific notation numbers. So I think we can make that be the case on those displays as well. So
yeah. I almost wonder if this should be, because like we've struggled with this kind of in the past, where there's some players who are like, I want everything up to 1 million to be actual numbers, and there's other players who are like, as soon as it gets over 1,000, I want scientific notation. And so I wonder if it makes sense for this to maybe be an option.
Only so much as that we have enough digits to fit it into the various locations that they're listed, I think is the issue, right? Because sometimes they are sort of in a tight spot that we only have maybe 6 characters to fill it in. So
the option would need to be attempt to show full numbers up to a certain exponent,
a certain number of characters, yeah.
And then we would say we'll try if we can, but not necessarily.
Okay. Next question here is from Torontonian. Will season daily quests that player can't complete, for example, do a patron variant when all patron variants are complete, be looked at so that they don't appear for people?
When you said that name, I thought this was a person from Toronto, because I thought you said a Torontonian. But and I don't answer questions for people from Toronto. No, that's not true. Toronto's fine. But getting back to the question, yes, the intention is that daily quests specifically that players can't complete should not be showing up there. We fixed the one for patron challenges right away. That one was fixed within I think half an hour or so of launch. And there are potentially 2 others. There's one that's upgrade a blessing, that as of, I think, about 1 o'clock today, should no longer show up for anyone until we can get that one fixed. And then the other one that people have been reporting is showing up when it doesn't make sense is to complete a new adventure or variant in a specific campaign. And I have not confirmed that one is not working as intended, but definitely the intention for all of the daily quests is that you will only get ones that you can complete. So if there's a reason that you wouldn't be able to complete it, it should not show up there. I can hear Dexter from your side.
Oh, yes, they're working out there. Well, apparently Torontonian is from Winnipeg, so...
Winnipeg?
Uh-oh. Don't start anything.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. I've never been to Winnipeg, so I can't, comment necessarily on what it's like.
Yeah. Okay, next question is from the Neovid. Is the new campaign's Evergreen Champ already available, or is it in the works?
So I assume you're talking about Xerxes. There is no Xerxes Evergreen Champion already. I believe the team has an idea of who they're going to do, but certainly not available yet. Generally, the Evergreen Champion will either come out kind of halfway through the campaign, or right towards the end of the campaign. And we're only 2 adventures in out of generally about 20 in a campaign.
Okay. Next question. This is from Canelian. I know you fixed the click heal the front row season quest on the PC builds. Any idea when this fix will come to console/mobile?
So my understanding is that we should have done a fix for that, or a fix should have been out with that with the push we did just after lunch. So about an hour and a half ago or so. And actually, we were kind of a little bit cheeky with the fix. We were able to do a data fix by just having it require that you have Keelik in the formation. It doesn't really matter what he's healing, because really it doesn't. As long as you don't have him in the front row in a one slot in the front row formation, then he will be healing the front row. So. It still says that he must be healing the front row, but the actual effect is that he just has to be in your formation, and that should be working on all platforms now. You might have to reset your client in order to get that update.
All right. Next question here is from Evil Turnip T. The second T is optionally silent. Oh,
Should have read that before you got there.
Evil Turnip asks, Celestian Favor Global Bonus says increases damage by 200%, which is 3 times. But the blog post says it will increase damage 2 times, just like the other divine blessings. Which is correct? This blessing is more expensive than the other global damage blessings, so 3 times doesn't seem out of line.
Yeah, that should be just a times 2. It should be increased damage by 100%. I'm not sure how that would have slipped through, but we can take a look at that. It is definitely more expensive. In general, as we do more and more campaigns, they get harder and harder in terms of the amount of favor you need to get to get all the blessings. So, yeah, that's weird. And Mars here is typing in our thing saying that it uses completely different wording than the other tier 1 globals. That's probably how it got messed up. Someone just didn't do a good job at copy and pasting.
Yes, this is the we gain consistency by find the previous place we did this and duplicate it. Do not reinvent the wheel. No, that is how you make errors. Yeah,
wheels are expensive to reinvent. I mean,
because they're already invented.
You got to figure out the shape. You got to figure out how you're going to attach it to things. Anyway.
Okay.
Let's see here. It looks like you have highlighted a bunch of questions because I have completely run out of highlighted questions, even though we have, and apologies in advance if we don't get to your question. We are pushing well past 80 questions, and I think we've answered 15 or 20 at this point. But yes, the next question here is from Ghostwalker71, and they ask, in the pop-up for switching champions, can we have an icon on their portrait that shows their alignment, affiliation, etc.? Maybe color the background in various ways?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these. This is a question that we have had asked before, and I 100% agree. We need to get something in to indicate this. It definitely needs a little bit of sort of UI thinking on what makes the most sense, and certainly if we can come up with some icons for it that read well or naturally without having to have a legend next to it. But definitely this is a requested feature that we would like to get in. But it does need a little bit of thought to do it in a way that works. But yeah, at some point we will get something in there to indicate that, because I know that's something that you definitely want to know when you're switching between them. So yeah. Okay. Next question here is from Black Virtue. This question is, with so much in flux with seasons being new, what was the decision process behind jumping in with a paid option as opposed to a short, fully free trial season to iron out any issues?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I don't think we ever really considered doing a kind of a trial season like that. In the past, we've done kind of some alpha testing with a small group of players for testing new features like trials and multi-party and stuff like that. Seasons were a little bit more simple in that regard, and I think in terms of the bugginess of the system itself, I think it came out pretty well. In terms of actual bugs, major bugs yesterday, there was the Keylek Gold Find one, and the Keylek, I don't know why Keylek, we just don't like Keylek for some reason. The Keylek milestone not tracking properly. But aside from that, they were pretty bug-free. And I'm not sure that doing a sort of free trial season would have necessarily changed the rewards we put into the first paid one. Yeah, I think that I'm decently happy with what we did. But with that said, it doesn't rule us out, trialing things sort of publicly in the future. But it's just not something we decided to do this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's sort of two things I would add to that. The first one is definitely expectations. That if we'd rolled out a season where if there was no paid option and then rolled one out, for the second season, certainly that would cause a lot of players to get up in arms over what appeared to be kind of like a bait and switch potentially. And secondly, I think sort of one thing that, and despite having observed numerous comments about this, sort of the testing side of it, is that we actually at this point we have a full-time QA person, Nathaniel, and he spent weeks testing this system and reporting bug after bug as he found them, especially on like the quest progress not happening properly and that sort of thing. So I think that this should be a release that ends up with very few bugs in it compared to some of the previous releases, because it's been very well tested. So yeah, I think it's in pretty good shape. So shout out to Nathaniel for that.
Yeah, I like to refer to Nathaniel as our QA department. The entire department, one person. Yeah. With that said, the individual developers who work on their champions also do a decent amount of QA on individual champions as well as they're developing them. So it's not just Nathaniel. If there are any bugs, it's not just his fault. It's other people's fault too. That's never totally my fault.
All right, here's the next question, and this one I highlighted because I wasn't 100% aware that we hadn't, or where this issue might be stemming from here, if there is an issue that we're not aware of. But Mike Baldy asks, are there plans to fix the servers so they can handle favor values over E308? I understand in normal conditions this is a very rare situation, but bugs do happen. Like yesterday with Quillic, it was pretty easy to get past E308 favor and end up with no favor at all, potentially losing years of favor farming conversions.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, certainly without bugs, it is like almost literally impossible to get to E308 favor. So the reason that we haven't addressed it yet is because without bugs, it is essentially literally impossible to get to E308 favor. So it's not something that has popped up as a huge priority. I think at the point at which we're getting up there, where you don't need a horrendous exploit like the Keylek one yesterday, then yeah, I think that's something we can look at. But I think we're still a little ways away from that for the most part.
Okay. Next question here, and I think when this was being asked, I did see some of the chat doing some of the math and realizing that what the answer was, but I'm going to ask the question anyway, and that is, this question here is from Canelian, and the question is, do you plan on having a break in between seasons, like with events, or are they going to chain one after the other?
People have definitely done the math on it. There's 52 weeks in a year. Each season is about going to be probably around 10 weeks, give or take. And so we do plan to have a little bit of a break between, just to try and get them to line up at the right spot. We kind of need a little bit of flexibility to be able to kind of release them at a time that makes sense because of our ridiculously constant cadence of releases. So we don't want to lock ourselves into basically having to release them at a certain specific time by having them be like, say, 13 weeks and then just having them go one up against each other. We want to have a bit of flexibility there. So there could be, maybe one time there'll just be a week or two between, maybe another time there'll be 4 or 5 weeks between. But in general, we want to be flexible with that cadence.
Okay.
That's the next question.
I think we've got probably time for one more question.
But we don't have any more highlighted.
Let's maybe do this one here. And before we do that, I did see one down here that I could quickly answer. Sure. And this was one from Planeswalker CID1 asking, will the jukebox music be updated on the Switch version? And I'd have to check with Peter to be 100% sure on this, but it was my understanding that we've kind of hit a size limit on that, and we may not be able to do so on Switch. But I'd have to confirm with Peter, but I think that may be the case that we can't include any further jukebox music just due to the amount of size it takes up. So,
Switch.
Yeah. Okay, last question here. This one is for you, Justin. You got a minute and a half to answer it. This is from DragonLore540. What was the thought process behind not including the heroes in the season pass? Yes, the heroes are currently discounted, but as it stands, players without patrons get one time gate piece every 5 days, which requires 14 weeks to get all 5 characters without free drops. A lot of rewards are locked behind having specific characters.
Yeah, so this is a good question. This is something that we debated quite a bit and could very well change for future seasons. But yeah, we did reduce the time gate cost for the seasons for now. There are some daily quests that point you in the direction of time gates if you're not sure what they are, if you're a brand new player. We're also giving out some of these characters kind of, I think right now you can get Lucius for free with the Birdie Lucius code. I think that's still active. I think we're going to be doing that for 1 or 2 of the other champions as well. So there definitely will be some other ways to get them. Yes, the code is in chat there. Birdie Lucius, you can get a Birdie Lucius skin that will also unlock Lucius and a couple of gold chests as well. And Nova from the newsletter. So that's what's out right now. But there may very well be more in the future. I'm not entirely sure what marketing has planned, but that's kind of the way that we're getting some of that stuff out there for people who didn't have those champions quite yet. And yeah, it's something we'll look at for future seasons as well.
Okay. Well, that looks like that's all we've got time for.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Sorry, it's been a couple of weeks since I did this. If we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry, you'll have another opportunity. We'll be live again at this same time next week. And of course, we'll also pull some of the questions forward from this episode to that episode. So be sure to tune in. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was Mars and Martin. They're the ones who copy your questions into our questions doc and generally make things awesome. So thanks to both of you.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game, because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
And we like what we do.
It's fair enough. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
Practically forgot how to do it, Justin. It's only been a week.
It's a new room. There's an echo in here.